Darwin had this amazing idea that, we're not a really strong species, we don't have big fangs, we're not, what we needed is to be sympathetic. And what Darwin did is he looked at humans and he said, what is our defining characteristic? What really is the kind of the great shift in human evolution? And his thesis was that humans, the strongest instinct, is our capacity for sympathy.
So we are one human family. We are responsible for each other. And the only way that we can truly advance is to accept that responsibility and then to take advantage of the wonderful things that come from the contributions of all members of that family. So, it isn't just a matter of transferring things from here to there or of imposing boundaries, thinking of ourselves as separate. We are all connected.
If you give people $20 and you have them give it away or spend it on themselves, they feel happier at the end of the day if they give it away, right? Even though at the start of the day they believe that if they spend it on themselves they'll be happier. This whole science says, not only are we wired or born to be good, but it pays to be good and you live longer if you're good. So.
And so this question of responsibility, this question of what folks like you, me, my kids should be doing is a tough one.
There's been a trend in the way that the West has tried to help by thinking that we can solve the problems of the world's poor. We cannot do that. The only way to solve poverty is when you enable and equip local individuals to change and transform their lives and their communities.
The perception that most people have of Africa is distorted. Suppose you had no image of a big city, but every now and then, you got the first 3 minutes of the 6 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news about cities like New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Chicago, and so forth.
The first thing to understand about what we can do to address needs in Africa is to understand the power and dignity of the African people and the solutions that are going on there now and say, how can we get behind those solutions?
People get just bits and pieces, and usually these are sensational kind of news. And so you cannot blame people for thinking of Africa as some place where people are always fighting everywhere, or there is wildlife everywhere.
Rather than assume that people are poor in places like Africa because they lack skills or they lack resources, is to first ask, why are they poor? And to ask that question forcefully and genuinely, starting with the point that more often than not they have skills and abilities and they want, so something must be holding them back.
It's not okay that half of the world does not have enough to live on. It's not okay that 1 billion people live in extreme poverty. That's not okay. And if you were one of the individuals that were born into that circumstance, I think you'd want someone to care.
The U.S. stands as a model, and we often lament the fact that the U.S. is held up as this model of development. But the flip side of that is that if we can do innovative and creative things here at home around poverty, around justice, around environment, that makes it easier for activists in the third world to say, well, look, they're doing that in the United States, so we don't necessarily need to sort of follow that high consumption, high industrialization path.
The sun provides us every day 15,000 times the energy that the world is now using in fossil fuels. So the nature of life is possibility. The biggest obstacle to making change is feeling that the power in the world is so tightly held that there's no place for me, that my voice doesn't count for anything.
If you look at development from a much broader perspective, it's something the whole world is engaged in. We're part of an ever-advancing civilization, and the purpose of what we're doing is to allow for the material and spiritual empowerment of all the people of the world.
One thing that I'm really struck by is the compassion and the willingness to sort of give and share among Americans. I mean, we are among the most charitable of people. Yet one of the questions comes up, why aren't we as giving with respect to foreign aid? Americans believe that some 25 to 35% of the entire federal budget goes to foreign aid. The shocking reality is that we spend about 1/2% of the federal budget on aid.
Compassion is viral, right? It's contagious. There are studies showing that are on this question that, you know, if you study people in social networks like a neighborhood or a community or an organization, it's really the happy, uplifting people. Their emotions spread really fast to other individuals.
And what's our responsibility for these issues? We're born here in the rich world. None of us get up in the morning thinking, okay, I want to be complicit in global patterns of poverty and desperation. We just try to get through the day, be with our friends and our family. But at the end of the day, if we have come to learn about these issues, the question of our responsibility is inescapable. What do people in the rich world with some degree of power and knowledge, what do? How do they act? How do we make the world a better place? Can we just go to bed at night and pretend all of this isn't happening?